Who doesn't want a dense hedge? Well, Charlie has a short clip that'll do the trick.
We all know what they look like, very magnificent, but how do you achieve that?
Looking for something a little bit different. This community is taking sustainable living to a whole new level. The average energy rating of a house is 6 stars, but yours is a lot more.
9 stars.
You don't need a big garden to make a big impact.
Believe you me, small gardens are actually filled with potential.
Has Adam fallen out of love with gluing and screwing?
I'm going to be building a set of shelves and there isn't a single fixing in sight.
For me, the perfect garden is all about privacy, relaxing in your own space without your neighbours looking in, and for that, you need some pretty substantial hedges. We all know what they look like, very magnificent, but how do you achieve that? Well, a lot of that is ongoing maintenance, and that starts when the plants first go in the ground. Now, one of the biggest problems people have when they're trying to achieve a nice big hedge is they leave their pruning far too long, and that's understandable. You want to get the height, so they think, let it grow up, and then I'll start pruning it. But if you start pruning your hedge as soon as it goes in, you'll increase the growth rate and you'll have a much denser hedge. But where do you start? So if you're looking at something like this, our heights are all up and down. So I'm going to pick somewhere roughly in the middle and take the plant off all the way through. And I'm going to prune it in a very specific space. You see this area through here? We've got a long stem, and at the base of the stem is 2 buds. You want to just prune off that, and that will force all the energy of the plant to make those leaves bigger and denser. And that's exactly what's happened in here. You'll see where the pruning point is, and these 3 stems have really taken off. But they've got a little bit long, so I'm going to prune those back to the same height as before.
I get a little crazy, oh, it doesn't even faze me now. I get a little crazy, and it feels so good.
Now, the more you prune, the denser your hedge will be, because you'll notice the distance between the leaves will get shorter and shorter. If you let them get too long, well, then it starts to get leggy. So even if you're taking off the tiniest amount, it's going to make a big difference. The last thing you want to do is look at the side of your hedge. Now, this is a viburnum and it will get quite large, so this branch here is really going to take off. So I'm going to prune it back in line with my sandstone capping. Once I've done that, all I really need is to give it a bit of time. As this grows, I'll keep pruning it. The more I prune it, the longer it will take to get to the finished height, but the denser the hedge will be, so it depends on what look you want. Now, these pruning tips work for any type of hedging plant. The only thing I will advise is you do need a little bit of patience.
Our lives are full of straight lines, right angles and standard sizes. Whether it's the homes that we're building or the communities we are creating, they're all streamlined for efficiency. But what if you're looking for something a little bit different? You want to live in a connected community where everyone supports each other, or you just want to live in something that's a little outside of the box? Well, Narara Eco Village shows you that anything is possible. Here she is. Hello, Linda.
Oh, hi, Jo.
Pleasure to meet you.
And you.
I feel like I have stepped in the pages of a fairy tale, like something so whimsical. I mean, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but you're in your 70s. What on earth made you build a house like this?
I was younger at the time. And I was just so enraptured with natural building.
So when you first had your vision for it, did it look like this?
Nothing like it. My concept was quite simple. A roundhouse, something in between and another roundhouse, and they just grew like topsy. But with a sloping block, my simple concept had to change.
Just looking at the outside here, you're so ahead of your time. I mean, things like the rooftop garden and the corten steel around the doors and the windows.
I saw corten at the local nursery and I thought, oh, I'll have some of that. I can't wait to get it finished because I can't wait to sit on top there. I've got a little area that I can sit and have a glass of wine.
But see, you've got the end goal.
I have. That's my end goal.
Linda, there is so much to look at, but I cannot help looking up at this ceiling. This is beautiful.
It is gorgeous, isn't it?
What is this structure made of?
The walls are earth bags.
Earth bags?
Yeah, and they're long bags, and you fill them with quite a mixture of lime and clay and mud.
What have you rendered it with then?
This is clay inside.
Right.
It's breathable, and lime render outside, which is much more waterproof.
Yep. The feature that you've got in this doorway with the bottles is absolutely beautiful when you see it backlit from inside, isn't it?
That's something that I had to have. I've been collecting so many bottles.
Baby, you and I, baby, we gon' make it to the end of time. This loving is forever, you should know by now. And I'ma always love you, cause it's you and I. Ooh, baby, you and I, baby, we gon' make it to the...
You mentioned that you have a main house behind this. Have you done the same building process for up there?
No, it's from straw bale. It's got beautiful bamboo roof and earth floors that I'm oiling at the moment, and they're going to just look wonderful. So it's like being in nature inside your house.
Try to get back on my feet, but every single time I do, I can't get my heart to be straight, cause a part has been removed.
Goodness me. They're quite heavy.
They are.
And beautiful. So who did these?
A local artisan called Nick Barron, and
Wow.
he's a total craftsman. I've had a lot of help, and a lot of volunteers from the natural building world, and people in the village have really helped me.
See, I love this idea of this connected village, so I think that's my cue to go and meet some of the other members. But thank you for showing us through your homes.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hello, Lyndall. So nice to meet you.
Oh, lovely to meet you too. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. What a gorgeous home that you have.
Yeah, thanks very much. We've been here about 3 years now.
3 years. I cannot wait to pick your brains because speaking of brains, I believe that you and your husband are the two people behind this entire eco-village.
Yeah, I think we did the first kick-off.
Where did the idea come from?
In about 1996, two of my friends' husbands died in the 1 year, leaving them to bring up their teenage kids. And that really hit home to me that maybe if we were living in a village, we could be more supportive. I could drop over a casserole, I could make them apple crumble. And I guess that was the kernel of the project.
And that kernel has sprouted, flourished and grown into a vibrant, caring community.
There's a lot of kindness here, a lot of kindness.
It almost sounds like you're going back to old-fashioned values, but in modern-day times.
I think it is a bit back to the future. You know, we're certainly quite modern with our technology that we use, but the spirit and the kindness perhaps comes from before.
While the buildings at Narara have to comply with council regulations, members of the community are free to explore alternative approaches.
We wanted to build a hemp house.
Yep.
We were just so taken by the healthy nature of hemp that it breathes in and it breathes out. So you're not going to get the mould that you might if you paint your house on the inside with plastic paint.
Just come with me.
Hello, Jazz.
Hello.
You're a bit of a superstar around here. The average energy rating of a house is 6 stars, but yours is a lot more, isn't it?
9 stars.
9 stars. So do you have bragging rights in the whole village?
I do, because the neighbour was 8.8, and then I realised I could beat him.
So how have you actually done it to achieve that?
There's a number of things that help. It's the thermal rating for the concrete flooring.
Yep.
Double glazing on the windows. I've never had double glazing before. Lighting that's not recessed, it's actually extended down.
And that's so you don't put another hole in your ceiling space?
Yes, yeah, every little gap leads to leakage.
So that's not the only unique thing about your home, is it, either? Because you actually share it with somebody else.
I do, with Chris, who owns the tiny house.
Yeah.
And she wanted to buy half my land. Helps with council rates and our own internal levies and sharing the cost of the gardening.
That's a rhythm that my heart just knew.
What do you think is the best thing about living here?
I feel more secure.
Yeah.
So having people around me, friendships, collaborating and a purpose to life.
And you're doing your bit for the universe.
Yeah.
You know I'm ready to move.
It is true that gardens come in all shapes and sizes, but a lot of people think if you've got a small garden, you've got to make sacrifices. Well, they're old school rules. Believe you me, small gardens actually fill with potential.
To just let go. Gonna have one hell of a party. One hell of a night. Gonna get the best of everything.
2 years ago, this front area looked very different. That's when the garden designer Peter replaced the original skittish gravel with these very stylish pavers. Now, the pavers double as a spot for the owners to park their car, and the Mondo, it's a beaut little thing. It not only connects the whole garden together, ties it all in, but it's steppable, and it really just is so easy. Low maintenance, looks great.
One shot, give me one shot, 'cause I want you.
Now, this aspect is northeast facing, so for 2/3 of the year, it's in full blazing sun, and like the Mondo grass, everything has to be really tough. The designers selected Raphaelepis. It's the Indian hawthorn snow maiden. White flowers later in the year, but evergreen dark foliage. The frangipani came out of a big old pot that the owner had and really loved it. It's been given pride of place right in the middle. And also the flowers and the perfume, it all sets it off nicely. Nothing is overdone. It's nice and gentle and flows right the way through. I love the aloes because of their dramatic foliage, and I love the little bun shape of the chrysocephalum. A native foliage, lovely and grey and soft. Now it's coming into full colour. It's loving this heat. South-facing side passages are always a dead zone, but not here, because they've come up with really clever plant selection. First up, these olives. I love the grey foliage. It's letting plenty of light through. It's also creating privacy from the next door neighbours. And these are as happy as Larry because they're coming into fruit. And they've planted hydrangeas, but not just any old hydrangeas. It's N+ Ultra. Look at the foliage. It's like cabbages. It's strong and lush and vigorous. But the flowers, well, it's a real journey in itself. They come out white, then slowly go to pink, then they get this lovely purpley red mottling, and then eventually they age to green. That's a long process of many, many months.
Up and down, go a little crazy. Won't stop now, we do it on the daily. Dance all night, get lost in the crowd. I wanna feel the beat.
Sometimes you need to step out of your comfort zone and create something a little bit different. It's a challenge when you've got such a small sun-trapped courtyard. They're basically using the vertical space to create the garden. So there's very little space taken up on the ground, so you can have friends and party here. The first thing I notice is the paintwork is simple, white, and then you can have all the contrast of the foliage. Now on this side, you've got a whole range of plectranthus, bromeliads, succulents, more plectranthus, even begonias. But the real standouts are the bromeliads. Look at the foliage colours because they're here all year round. Peter, I love what you've done here. It's just beautiful. But what was it like when you arrived here in the backyard?
It was just a blank canvas, Graham. There really wasn't anything. It was grass right to the boundaries. And really, it was a great advantage to have that because we didn't have to unpick a whole lot of extraneous planting. While ever the fences are exposed, it makes the garden look much more limited. So to lift the eye up and over the top of the fence line, you need to conceal all the fencing all the way around. And that makes the garden look more expansive. And this is Calliandra portoricensis.
White one is quite unusual.
It's got an interesting ferny leaf, hasn't it?
Yeah, almost like a wattle.
The other interesting part about this plant during the summertime is when it gets to around 5 or 6 p.m, all of those little radial puff-shaped flowers open. So just at cocktail time, you've got beautiful scent.
Lots of foliage, lots of texture. It's so clever. Well done, mate.
Thank you, Graham.
'Cause it's time to see the world.
Well, I wanted to come up here and have a look because I was really attracted by this leaf shape. This is the tractor saddle plant. And then I've discovered another treasure. This is Metanilla. Now, they grow it in Singapore and up in the tropics in the Philippines. How good is that? But that wasn't why I came up here. It was to actually show you the privacy is starting to happen with bougainvillea going right along that fence line. Flowers starting to appear and foliage, so it's going to look really good in time. But there's still plenty of space if you run at 45-degree angles the veggie garden beds. They're facing north, so they've got perfect sunshine, and you've got tomatoes and leeks and a whole lot of herbs all coming into growth.
I'm shining.
With really clever garden design and expert plant selection, you too can have a beautiful and a productive garden.
You all know how much I love building stuff, and usually that involves a lot of gluing and screwing of timber. Well, guess what? Not this time. I'm going to be building a set of shelves, and there isn't a single fixing in sight. We're using an old technique that's been around for hundreds of years, but before I show you that, I'm going to cut this timber to size. For the material, I'm using some dressed pine, but this one's pretty cool. It's actually got a live edge, so it will give this shelving unit a bit of an organic look. Now, I've just cut up 4 shelves. They're 900mm long, and then 2 sides, they're a little bit longer at 1.70 m, and that's what I'm going to be working on next. One thing you want to make sure of when you're working with a live edge is that you take all your measurements off the square side. So I've just split the side into 3 and we end up with 80mm in the middle. And I'm going to be creating 4 mortises to house our 4 shelves. What's a mortise? Well, basically, it's a fancy word for a hole in a bit of timber. You'll notice that I've marked 2 lines here, and that is the thickness of our shelf. It's 26mm, and with all the mortises marked out, I'm going to use a drill in each corner so I can sit the jigsaw in and cut it out. Now we're going to get onto the tenons in the shelf, and for that, the position will be exactly the same in the centre, and it's going to be 80mm wide. But instead of taking the timber out this time, we're going to leave it on, and that way it will slide inside our mortise. With the first shelf marked out, the tip to making this whole unit work is you want to get this and sit it on top of the rest of the shelves, because we need to make sure that the measurement between here and here is exactly the same. It doesn't matter if your tenons are longer, this is the most important. So I'll line it up with the back edge and I'll simply use my square to copy those lines down. With all the tenons cut out of our shelves, you can now see how it works. The tenon coming through the mortise. But you might be thinking, well, if you're not using any fixings, how are we going to keep this together? Well, now I'm going to mark the outside edge of our side onto the tenon and do that top and bottom and create another mortise. The moment you've been waiting for, the old ancient technique to holding the shelving unit together are these wedges. And that is the reason why we created mortises in the shelves. But if we look at these ones, they're square. And this wedge, well, it's on an angle. So we want to make sure that we've got contact all the way through that hole. That means I'm going to take 3mm off the top edge to nothing on the bottom. Because the tenons hang past the side of our shelves, we want to get rid of this sharp edge and sort of soften it a bit. So I'm going to be cutting it on a 45-degree angle. finish this off, I'm just going over everything with an oil and then I'll buff it with a wax, which is a traditional technique for finishing furniture, just like this. And now we're ready to put this unit together. So I'll lay it out on the ground and I'll put these wedges in, just hand tight, then I'll stand it up and I'll use a hammer to whack them in. Look at that. I really think by picking this material with the live edge, it just brings this unit to life and really complements the mortise and tenon joint. And look at that. You've got a custom bit of furniture that's not only beautiful, but distinct too.